One of my favorite things about MEX Talks is learning about ways Mexicans in Chicago come to their own space. Our next speaker will have so much to say about this. Julia Ramirez was recently sworn in as the new 12th Ward Alderwoman. But before this, she was already an accomplished restorative justice practitioner, social worker, and community organizer. And it's a very, very privileged place for me to be able to welcome to the stage, as we knew each other since we were kids. So please welcome Brighton Park's very own Julia Ramirez.
Hola a todos, buenas noches. I am so happy to be here. This is a full circle moment for me. This is a mama, we made it type of moment. I was 18 years old, I was a freshman in college, and Luis and LP opened their doors and believed in somebody like me, and it really transcended my nonprofit career. So thank you so much, Luis and LP. I'm ready to get really vulnerable with you all. I'm gonna share quite a bit about myself in such a short amount of time. And the first thing you should know about me is que yo soy una chillona. I cry a lot because I feel hard. I love hard. I'm an emotional Mexicana. But don't get it twisted. También yo soy una chingona. And so is my mom and my grandma who are here tonight. Hi, Mom. Just 6 months ago, I did a thing. I walked into McKinley Park Library on 35th Street, and I voted for myself. It's crazy, right? I saw my name on the ballot, and I voted for myself to become the next alderwoman of the 12th Ward. Thank you so much. Representing the Southwest side, of this great city of Chicago. I was my biggest fan. I would strap on my durable yet inexpensive boots from Target, also known as Target. I would stuff my gloves with hand warmers, and I would knock door by door. And then there were other days that I was my biggest enemy. I would always ask myself, who did I think I was to be running for such an esteemed position? So walking block by block, I would question, ¿Quién soy yo? And the truth is I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a little bit of the old, I'm a little bit of the new, I'm a little bit of the fresh, and a little bit of the vintage, because 90s babies are vintage. But I am a blend, people are laughing, I know. I'm a blend of the intersectionalities of life. I was raised by two strong women in their own right, but they both had very different and conflicting viewpoints and experiences. I am a granddaughter of a grandmother that was born and raised in La Joya, Mexico. She would sing rancheras and mariachi with her sister, and she was the last of 7 women, imagínate, in Mexico, at 24 years old, that decided to have kids and get married. And I'm a daughter of a mother that was born and raised right here in the city of Chicago. She loved listening to The Cure and Depeche Mode, and she was the first of her 5 siblings to have children. It's all very complex, and I choose to live my life in the complexities of the gray and not see life so black and white. I think that we all are all different, and we all bring something to the table. And a lot of times, a lot of the differences that we see them in our own families. Take my family, for instance. On my paternal side, my Ramirez family, my grandparents were born and raised in Bridgeport. They didn't speak Spanish, and they loved celebrating the 4th of July with hamburgers and hot dogs. My grandparents loved listening to Santana and disco music. And then on my maternal side, my Mendoza family, they migrated to Chicago in the 70s, to Pilsen, Chicago. And then they became one of the first Mexican homeowners in Brighton Park. Brighton Park, the ward that I am now alderwoman in. It's absolutely amazing. And summers were really different. Summers were actually for trips back to Mexico. My grandfather would take me down to South Chicago for really good food. And I would binge watch Cantinflas movies with my grandma, and we still quote those movies all the time. And so yo no soy de aquí ni de allá, pero un poco de los dos. And sometimes de tres y cuatro. 3 and 4 representing the variation of my Mexican identities that were cultivated in the 80s and 90s. There was a big shift, but not everybody got the same opportunities. That's why yo soy street and book smart. In my family, we all got different forms of education. I have 2 uncles that went to U of I from Kelly High School on scholarship, but I also have a father that went back to get his GED in his 30s. My brother, he went to 4 different high schools, and he still managed to graduate in 4 years. His high school graduation was one of the happiest moments of my life. And then there's me. I went to boarding school in Pebble Beach, California, and I would come back to Chicago, spend my summertime shy playing basketball at Kelly Park, and one of those uncles with that prestigious engineering degree would come up to the courts and shake up with me and play basketball with me. That's where I knew that we can be both. We can be a mix of all of those things. Excuse me. We can be a mix of all of those things. And I try to use that in my work. Yo soy an anti-violence advocate, a restorative justice practitioner, but also a victim of gun violence. Living and breathing the work, I could not stop the systematic violence that persists in the city of Chicago and in neighborhoods like mine. I lost my only brother, Nicholas Ramirez Jr., at the age of 19, just months after his high school graduation. I've lived the heartaches of this city. I've questioned whether I was just some quota to fill. I've struggled to find myself in history and in movies, but in reality, the history has been written all around us. We are vessels and carriers of the present, past, and the future. That's why I love going back to Mexico. Most times finding myself within the ruins of our ancestors, learning about the beauty and the creation, only to know the ways that we've been oppressed and colonized. But as hard as they try to erase us from history, we persist to rewrite it, and we find our mark. So on February 28, 2023, I made my wedge in history. I won my election. And I now, thank you so much. I now sit on a city council that has the most women in its history, the most Latina members in its history, the most openly identifying LGBTQIA members in its history. I stand before you as a history maker, as a representation of all the firsts that have come before me to create an opportunity like this one. So when I think about those cold days when I would ask myself, who am I? ¿Quién soy yo? I am my community. I am from my community. I see and stand for my community. I am now a representative of a majority Latina, Mexican identifying ward. And although we have very different stories and very different needs, I make a clear choice to meet people where they are at and to fight for a more equitable society. So as the polling places closed on that Tuesday, February 28th night, I walked into my victory party to a roaring room, and the DJ was playing Follow Me. It's my favorite house song. It's mine and my brother's song. And as the Telemundo cameras kept watching us and kept recording us, we all ended up grabbing hands and we were running across the room doing La Víbora dance. So it's my commitment to myself, my commitment to my community in this city, to keep showing up and being a representation of all that is me, la chillona, chingona mexicana. Yo soy Julia Monique Ramirez. I am the alderwoman, and we deserve it all. Gracias.